Thank you very much. So, thank you for coming back fast. We're going to carry on the session until 5 p.m. We'll be giving 4 presentations from 4, let's say, resource person. Mr. Amel Ganzi, who's working in DR Congo, who is living in Goma, in project officer in that area with a good deal of experience in the matter. Please. Then second, Mr. Sylvain Somé from Burkina Faso, who is going to share with us his experience with the implementation of ASM activities in Burkina Faso. Ile Jara working with Round Golf, and we're sharing with us his experience in terms of coexistence. And the presentation of the DG of Sodemi, Mr. Kwame, who was the movie star of the presentation of this afternoon, who is going to share with us the benefit of the applicability of its model in the other region, in other area. Without further ado, I'm going to yield the floor to Ahmed Ghazi to share with us the experience of fair coexistence and lesson learned in DR Congo. So I'm going to share with you the experience of coexistence in DR Congo and what my project is doing and is bringing as benefit for this project. Now, let me quickly tell you why do we have coexistence or cohabitation problem in Congo. And Congo is a resourceful country which involves the same for the mining permit. We have a map who is indicating the distribution of mining permit in DR Congo. So the empty areas are forest area or protected areas. On the second map, you have mining field site who are stacked to those permits. You can realize the magnitude of the issue, the scope of the issue, how the site are stacked on the projects. So this is a study we completed in 2014, just a sample representing 1/4 of the identified mining field sites identified in Congo, and here we have around over 600 sites on which we've worked, and you have the distribution against the mining permit. 97% of this site are located in the area where such operation should not be performed, undertaken. So most of the permit are attributed to area where the ASM is not entitled. So this one is the distribution of the permits. One of the permits is entirely occupied by ASM miners. This company is an important company because it has implemented a model. So we have another company which is a Canadian-based company which is in production phase, having a problem. On the mining permit, you see how the mining site occupies those mining permits. So on this note, I'm going to present the situation, what we are been doing in Congo. As you can see, it's resulted in several problems. Congo is a very sensitive zone, very sensitive area. It's just exiting a conflict, handling this situation between artisanal miners, landowners, making them to leave the area will not be a problem as they consider the land to be the land. So always the understanding of law, they consider that the first occupant of the land, they consider that they are the one who has discovered the field before the issuance of permit. The company has resorted to use force to make them leave, but they will come back, or by night time they will come back. This is the situation. It's very difficult to make them leave. Like I said, there are entities in Congo called the Provincial Monitoring Committee have initiated a discussion, advocacy with the mining company to authorize the artisanal miners to work in the area. That advocacy was taken over by the government and the central government, the provincial government, and they came up with a solution whereby the minister should send a mail. Let me tell you something. For a site to be illegal, it should be visited by receive a multi-stakeholders visit who will come visit the site and make sure that it's free from any illegal activities, harmful activity. So the site will be validated if the company give its its agreement. This happened once in which all the stakeholders will pour into it. So there are different type of companies. State-owned company which is yet to start the activity but has a permit, and a Canadian private company started the activity with a land portion without activity. The first one referred to the Asakima model. This company has signed with artisanal miner an agreement. With the transition of the provincial committee for supervising, controlling, supporting those artisanal miners. Even if the company is a state-owned company, there are technical companies in charge of supervision. This company has signed an agreement with the technical committee in charge of supervising or the artisanal miners in the site against paying or selling part of their production to the company, and if the company doesn't have me, send it to another partners, and the system is operational, it's working. We have a case in the Kasuri, the case in Kasuri which is working well. The difference is that we have cooperative in Congo. This is the most important point. For such a system to be operational, miners should be organized in a sort of organization or entity, discuss and work with scattered miners will lead nowhere, and we need to absolutely come up with an entity, a structure, and we've seen the example of Sodemi, but in Congo we have other type of structures. Now moving back to the Bandero system, in which we are personally working, we are playing that supervisory role, that role of extension, and the Bandero, that company has asked the artisanal miners to leave the areas, and supporting them technically, providing them with material equipment. And we are seeking for the support of the government and the partners. We are responsible for the formalization through support in terms of training, in terms of governance of cooperative, in environment, safety, and health, reduction of mercury. We are providing equipment which is not using mercury for the build-up, for the concentration. So we're trying to establish income-generating activity for the people living in the areas, because they have the family to feed. What we are doing is to consider how the family can support themselves, take charge of themselves, for the miners to be able to work appropriately. In applying the due diligence guidance and putting in place the traceability of the mineral, through that system, the private investor can make investment, remain in production, and the government, we are in charge of the cooperative, that making them to get the product into the legal channel. And we're going to put in place a traceability mechanism which will enable the government the dividend, which in the informal system will escape, will fade away. We have 97% of the artisanal production which is not reported. With the effort of other initiatives, we think that you can increase the legal production. This is what I wanted to share with you. Still have more to tell, but since we have time constraint, I'll stop here. Our system is working. What I'm doing is not to fight against the ASM, but to make it move into the large-scale mining. Thank you.
Merci, Ahmed. Je crois qu'on commence à connaître certains mots qui apparaissent.
Thank you, Ahmed. I think that we've started to discover some of the problems that are seen everywhere: dialogue, communication, and collaboration. We'll keep the questions to the end so that speakers be able to talk. Now I'm calling Sylvain Sommet from the Ministry of Mining and Energy from Burkina Faso to talk about their experience in the area of coexistence. Thank you. I'm Sommet Sylvain, Director General of Mine, Geology, and Quarries in Burkina Faso. As you know, Burkina Faso as a whole is covered by mining licenses, whether industrial or artisanal. It's the same resources that they are exploiting. So it becomes like a forced marriage, and it is the state that has the right and the duty to regulate that marriage with law. So the government in the mining code established the fact that the law that the mining operators should be exploiting in compliance with the exploration permit. In Burkina Faso, for instance, it is in the belt of green rock that the industrialists do the prospect operation to discover the industrial site. And this is where the artisans also prospect and exploit. And they are the ones that go faster than the industrial operators in the mining sector. So Burkina Faso, in its legislation, authorizes the artisanal exploitation on survey permits. Why? What were the positive and negative experiences in Burkina Faso regarding that coexistence? Burkina Faso has a long experience in the management of that problem, and what are the lessons that they can draw for the sub-region countries. The legal basis is the law. Act number 036, 2015, CNT of 26 June 2015 regarding the mining code in Article 17. The mining titles and authorization are superimposable in part or fully or partially or fully when only on the agreement of the owner of the pre-existing mining site. Article 73 stipulates that authorization to export for artisanal exploitation of the substance in the mining sector cannot prevent the survey activities on the surface area covered by the authorization in case of issuance of the exploitation permit covering the same surface area. The authorization cannot be renewed. The Article 79 stipulates that the renewal of the artisanal exploitation authorization for the mining substance on land covered by a survey permit can only be possible with the agreement from the survey permit and by the owner of such permit. The reasons. Article 5.15 of the Mining Code defines artisanal mining exploitation as follows. All the operation that consists in extracting and concentrating mineral substances like gold and diamond and other of the kind from primary site or secondary site using traditional and manual methods. They don't use equipment and mechanical energy, and it's not based on the evidence of the production site. The artisanal exploitation is a means to fight against unemployment of the rural population, particularly in dry season. And according to the statistics of the sectoral policy in the mining sector, more than 1 million people are operating in the area of artisanal exploitation of gold, and the maximum surface area for an artisanal exploitation is 1 square kilometers, and the surface area of the survey permit can cover 250 square kilometers. The country is totally covered by research permits and cannot permit exploitation, stopping the exploitation, artisanal exploitation of the country means that you are stopping the activity of the population across the country in this area. Positive experiences. The fact of giving permits or exploitation, artisanal exploitation permit to people shows that at least there is a response through which the, there is an authority to which the owner of the permit can refer to. Because if there's no landowner and they are trying to remove them from where they are operating, if the operator has an exploitation permit, at least it should stop the artisanal exploitation. But if the holder of the permit, if there is nobody to respond to, then they will use force. And somebody said it this morning that it's not always the best method. So the positive aspect is that the positive aspect of having somebody who can refer to for the artisanal authorization permit, that the person, any time, based on the agreement that they had, is that I have come to my exploitation site. Then when you have that authorization, it is removed from the surface area of the research permit. So they can still come to an agreement to move it to the research permit so that they can pursue the exploitation. The possibility for the holder of the permit to control the use of prohibited chemicals, because the holder of the exploitation permit is responsible for the use of prohibited chemicals and can at any moment draw the attention of the holder of the authorization of artisanal exploitation permit. who will tell him not to use the chemical product that are prohibited or explosive product. Now, the easiness for the holder to pursue or to hold to obtain the liberation in case of any problem. To continue his work in case of any problem is always an advantage. Now, obstruction to research work, utilization of equipment, grinder, prohibited chemicals like mercury and other substances are forbidden in the artisanal exploitation as provided by the legislation in Burkina Faso, because when the holder of the exploration permit is moving to the exploitation phase, the mining artisan is always there, and he pretends not to know the limitation of the exploitation permit, and always he remains close to the place because it's the richest part, and to move him from there is always hard. It's to go and complain to the administration, say that we don't know where we are permitted to exploit, or can we fence that place, which is always hard. Sometimes they even go to the mining site and steal the mineral resources there. It's not always easy. We even manage to fence the perimeter of the exploitation permit, and it's always very difficult to fence it. The mining artisans use that advantage. They know the right very well, but when we tell them no, but you are at the wrong place, they say that no, we are not informed. Why? They know it very well. In the light of the character of the artisanal exploitation, now the lessons for the sub-region, we think that in the light of the social dimension of the artisanal exploitation, this should be authorized in the research permit. The sensitization should be conducted to the artisanal miners to make them understand that the activity should not obstruct the research works on the mining research permit on the one hand, and on the other hand, the artisanal exploitation should be in compliance with the regulatory legislation in force. And Burkina Faso established a national agency to supervise the artisanal mining exploitation and semi-mechanized exploitation operation. There's a national office for the security of mining sites, which is supported by all the defense and security forces. And we also have a fund for the mining site reclamation and security, but this one does not behove mining operators. It is the state, through the royalties that are paid to it, that gives a percentage for the reclamation of mining site and the security. So we think that artisanal exploitation cannot be stopped, because we are talking about our national brothers, and ideally the industrial mining activity is more profitable to that sector. 1% of the turnover of mining company should be directed to the local development of communities. But when it is artisanal exploitation, it's only profitable to a few people. And we even see that when there is a problem, the artisanal miners connive with traditional leaders to stop industrial mining. So we should sensitize them for them to understand that sometimes the LSM proposes services that could be associated with them. But unfortunately, we realize that there are sometimes reluctances or resistances. Like my predecessors said, we need training and sensitization for mining artisans. It is a shared resource. They are right. They are entitled to it. So cohabitation or coexistence is still the best option. Thank you.
Donc nous avons vu un autre modèle de cohabitation. On peut peut-être dire que le mariage.
So we can say that the marriage is not easy, but at least it has started. And we will surely have a lot of questions to ask. Now let me turn to the private sector to see a short presentation from Michel Adjara from Rango Sources in Mali. He will give a practical experience on what we see on ground. Good afternoon. My name is Ile Diarra. I am the Sustainable Development Director for Run Gold. Run Gold is an African society company. We are in 4 countries. We are in Côte d'Ivoire through the mining site of Tongon. We are in Mali. We have 3 mining sites which are operating. We are in DRC. We have the mining site of Kibali. In the eastern province of Ituri, and we are in Senegal, where we have a project which is very much advanced, and we hope that it will become a mining site. Now, regarding the problem and the stake or challenge, we discussed it extensively this morning. Also, the loss for the industrial operators is very enormous. Somebody wanted us to even give a figure to it. And in fact, it costs a whole mining site. I'm talking about $400 million, if I may say so. So the outline, I'm proposing 3 solutions here, and we developed it along the years. Engagement, providing alternative and participating in fora. And there's the first model that did not introduce here is the first that we tried, which is not working very well, which is closing our eyes on that artisanal mining business. Because a long time ago, the director for exploration here in Côte d'Ivoire for Randgold said that when the team goes on the site, we always see the artisanal miners community, and later we will open a mining site. And most of the time when we come there, the community development team, we don't talk to mining artisans. See them, we say they are there. But now when they come and invade our site, we go to see the village chief, or we write a letter to the authorities to come and solve the problem. And that model does not work at all. We've tried it. It didn't work. It worked at the time because the state were coming, the head of the village were taking action. But after sometimes it was stopped. Nobody is afraid, and nobody listened to the chief. Because the land chief might get something in return, so nobody listened to him anymore. But we have 3 models. The first is to know the mining operators. So what we do is, it varies because we are in Congo, we are far advanced with the mining operators there, in Mali, in Côte d'Ivoire, and each country has its realities. But all in all, we have what we call the commitment, stakeholder commitment. Talk to the mining artisans. You need to talk to the village chief, but also to the mining operators, the artisanal miners. So we know them and they know us. And there's been many cases where when they invade our site, our targets or our site, we call them on phone and say, what's going on? What's the problem? Then we agree and they leave. But this approach also has limits, because at the time we had the feedback from them. Anytime we go somewhere, you tell us to move from there. We don't have any place to go. There's no alternative for us. So we started to go and see the government. So that these people said they don't have lands. Now what do we do? It's true that we need to be sensitive to the problem. So when somebody is angry, you go and remove him from that place, but at the time he will resist. So that model started to face some limit. There was no alternative, there was no corridor for the solution. So we said, why not try to find alternatives? So in our communities around us, we focused on the local economic development. Even a tractor that we give to the village, at least we ensure that there is a monitoring committee that help produce some money so that the village can buy another tractor machine to employ another person to increase their revenues. Anytime we go somewhere, we use education and health, school to generate revenues. For instance, any other sources like water point, anything we do in the village, we turn it into an income-generating activity. And so, for instance, in Mali, we built an agribusiness school. So these students, our mining site is in Lolo, which is an artisan miner community area in Kai. And so these people are all, most of them are living on artisan mining business. And so we saw that 52% of the revenue is from that artisan mining. And from this study, most of the time we forget this dimension. Later we try to catch up. So we built that school, and it was not easy. It can hold 100 people. In the beginning, we go to villages. We did it in collaboration with the government and technical services. And before that, we go to villages, we sensitize them that we want to develop that project. It's an alternative to what you do. So with agriculture, we have food security, which is achievable. And now people will run to the business. They'll be very happy. And we tell them, it is not a job that we are giving to you. It is a training. We'll give you training for 3 years. After that, we'll establish you. They ask, there's no salary? I said, no. In the beginning, we have 120 people. Later, you see 40 who will leave. You say, no, we don't have time for that, because the business is there, and we can't come and see now. And so we started with 80 people. We said that we don't have money to give. 80 people will stay. Maybe 20 people in that group had the hope that we were maybe bluffing. So they stay 2 more months thinking that we will pay them some money. After that, they will leave. And at the end of the day, we had 60 people. So in our plan, when we were training, the biggest risk was to be able to keep the people till the end of the training. So we were targeting 25, and at the end of the day, we had 60 people. And we even, at the end of the day, we had to kick out 2 students for indiscipline. We had 57 people who stayed in the center. They were trained for 1 year. In fact, it's the model we're trying to work on. It is over 2 years now. On the 3rd year, we will establish them. So this year, it is the incubation phase, and we are planning to work with GIZ. So we opened 5 farms, over 5 hectares, and we also erected 5 other farms of 5 hectares, and we divided these people, and they are being with coaches. So it is a real agricultural enterprise. So each team is a kind of company, and they develop the business, and with the market, the mines are around, so the market is guaranteed. But it's a model we're trying to experiment. And so far, the 57 people, they are really motivated, and most of them were former artisan miners, and we think that when we established them, we brought microfinance institutions, we give a credit line, because on the 3rd line, we will establish them on their own farms, and in doing so, there will be a lot of farmers around, and food security will be possible. Since artisanal mining is something that also generates money, at least with the farms, they will be able to buy foodstuffs. And on the education side, we also focused on it, because we, the mining company, we are always fast at saying that we have opened a school, but we focus on the quality. We invited NGOs to investigate on the quality of the teaching and the teachers, and see how we can improve things, just to drive people to profit from more of what we've been doing there. And we did not see the limits of the model, because we have not yet finished experimenting it. And the third model is an idea of the Malian government, which consists in giving some corridor. So even if we give some alternative to people, artisanal mining is a business. And there are some people, they don't know any other thing but that business. And in that case, you have to give them those alternatives. So in Mali, we have some corridors, but the artisanal miners sold those corridors to industrial operators. And so when we came, there was no corridor. And later, the government tried to create some corridors, and I was even wolf some people to go for the handover, and the local people refused because some of the corridors are starting to be corrupted. Some of the corridors were on hills, so there wasn't any upstream work before that, so it didn't work. And so for that, we asked ourselves, what should we do? We went to see the government. I'm trying to insist on that because it's a very sensitive issue. We consist in giving one of your permit for an experiment. As an evidence, we have a committee in Mali, and when we proposed it, there was no company that was ready to concede. In fact, it is their right. I'm presenting it, but it should not be seen as a solution which is applicable to all the companies, because there are laws to be complied with. So we decided that we will cut a part of our permit. So we decided to give that portion. All this surface area is our permit. So we gave that part of our permit. The geologists went there, land specialists went there, they checked, they tested everything, and so that it was possible for the artisanal miners, and we suggested to the government, it's the pilot project that we're going to start, and we think that there is, no, let's say, magical solution to all these problems. We need an integrated approach, and all the actors around this table, I mean, the Sodebi model can work, and it is actually what we're trying to do there. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Diarra. Je crois que vos mots de
Thank you very much, Mr. Diarra. As you said, there is no panacea for all these problems. It's the key word for our afternoon discussions. Now I want to turn to a more active participation of our panel. I want to ask Mr. Kwame Constantine from Social Justice to make some comment from what you learned this afternoon, your perspective, you as an NGO who's working in that field. You can stay where you are sitting to speak. Thank you very much. I'm Kwame Constantine from Social NGO Social Justice. First of all, I would like to say that for what has come out from the explanations and presentations since this morning, as you said, there is not a magical solution to all the problems that have been raised so far. We as an NGO, our mission is to work for the interest of all the stakeholders, I mean the state and communities, and the private sector when they are stakeholders to the business. And what I would like to say is that we more and more adopt, we started to understand that we need to adopt a more inclusive approach in the management of that phenomenon, because people who have started already to implement an activity in IGA, in fact, it will be hard for them to leave that activity and not receive any viable proposal that can help them to meet their basic needs. And just to take the word of somebody, is like this establishment in the communities that cannot disappear in a fortnight. And since the experiences shared help to explain all this, it is therefore very important to collaborate with authorities and with populations and communities, local authorities, in such a way that there will be positions in such a way that the center of interest of each of the parties be visible, and from that situation we'll be able to come up with sustainable solutions. Because whatever we say, it is true that there have been success stories in the experiences that have been presented, but we should also keep in mind that cases are not identical at all levels. There are similarities, but there are still differences for each of the cases. And even in the same country, there can be different cases. So the approach, we as a civil society organization, what we adopt most of the time in our activities is a participatory and inclusive approach of stakeholders before we develop a standardization policy for a sector which is sensitive. It will be appropriate to put all the various actors around the table and record their views before we embark on a sustainable and realistic solution. Because we said the solution of the forced interventions showed its limitations across the various experiences that were presented, which means that an element was neglected. How do we approach the targets? And what is the regret here is that we don't have the presence of some of the artisan miners in the country here in this meeting, because we have been talking about them. At least what we could do is, well, it will be an interpretation of our various experiences. But in reality, the people who are real stakeholders who are involved in that activity are well positioned to tell us clearly their real need and the real problems that they are facing, so that altogether we can find a solution. Supposing that I'll go to Segela or I'll go to another place and I say that we have organized a workshop on small-scale mining, and we talked about small-scale miners, and that one of them asked me, what did you say about us there? I will not be able to tell name all that happens in the workshop. I may even not have time for that, since there are various positions and reflections that will drive him to understand some of the elements. Ideally, it would have been great to get or to invite some of the small-scale miners in this workshop, and it would have been beneficial for the next stages in the implementation of that program, since there is, the way it was presented this morning, there is a sensitization phase and training phase as well. At least they will be already able to understand that the government is not only working at removing them from where they are working, but just driving them to understand a number of things and organize themselves in such a way that their business become more profitable for them than to the state. And the risk or the threat related to that activity are real dangers, and that altogether we need to find a solution to what is happening. So we as social justice NGO, to come back specifically to our activity, we thought it appropriate because the previous mining code didn't provide it for small-scale mining. And so when it started to come back with a new form version of the mining code, we thought it was important to simplify it so that the various community understand the content of that new mining code, and so that they will be more equipped and prepared to understand all around that sector. So there is an awareness-raising approach, education, information approach as well. And in these various communities, we try to organize monitoring committees, which mission is to ensure that there is an effective monitoring of governance activities in these localities, and also their mandate is to participate in the awareness raising in those local communities. And one of their mission or mandate is to go to those communities and ask them their opinion on the implementation of the new mining code. And on that issue, that question, there were various reactions. There were discussions on, the money is the sinews of war. So when we told them that the mining community were entitled to 0.3% of the 0.5% of the turnover, they started to react and ask questions around it. That was the central element of all this, and I had to explain to them what it's all about and how they can manage to get access to all these funds, and the norm and procedures that were put in place by the government to ensure that all this will be a reality. So in a few words, this is the experience of social justice and the vision on how the reform of the artisanal sector should be addressed. Which country are you working on? We are an Ivorian NGO, so we are working at national level.
No, thank you for the contribution from the civil society. We started this afternoon with a presentation on SUDEMI and its model. And we've seen that the Secretary General of SUDEMI was interviewed, and now he has the last word. Regarding the applicability of that SUDEMI model, the question that I would like to cover is that in the history of Cote d'Ivoire, there was a time when mining activities were banned for the ASM, but there was a promotion in the coexistence as promoted by SUDEMI. But the question that I would like you to cover here is, based on your experience, what can be the benefits and the down of such setup, such configuration as you done with SUDEMI, with the other private mining sector? Can this model be replicated in view of the mining code, in view to the fact that the laws was enforced with flexibility? This joined another question previously asked at the SAT this afternoon. Thank you, Mark. I'm going to answer your question, but there is something which is a concern to me since the morning, and I wanted to mention it, to flag it. I've listened to Dorothy, my neighbor, and the other. The 15 million people being targeted, which are working in the artisanal and small-scale mining, 99% of them are exploited. They are exploited, abused. Based on my experience at Sodemi, somebody is working 3 days or even 1 week to have and likes a penny. So it's a kind of exploitation. But let us not idealize. Let us see the individual entrepreneurs who are looking their means of livelihood. These are exploited people, and we need to consider the issue as such. The ASM and the ASM is a social issue with environmental and economic constraint, and the institutional will come to draw up the framework. Sodemi has supervised artisanal miners, gold miners, on our permit known as ZEBO. So we have an experience in the area to start answering your question. It's applicable. But the issue has been complexified by the explosion, as handling somebody who is flowing continuously and controllable is not the same as a flow after a storm. If you don't pay, you're not careful enough, you will be swept by the water. So the issue of the stakeholder is a reality, as tell you why you can enforce it and why you can be subject to many constraints. We can apply it, implement it easily, because if you consider it deeply, you can come up with common interests, even though we are on the private side. And having to deal with a situation similar to Cote d'Ivoire, whereby 2/3 of the country is covered by mining permits, like in Burkina and Mali, it's an existential problem. But who is benefiting from the ASM activity? I'm a private society. I want to draw up a corridor for ASM operator to work. So am I helping the local community? Am I helping the local community, or the pass-by, people who happen to pass by, or somebody who is sitting somewhere in Dubai who want to, I would say, to supply his unit, so his plant. As a private company, I have all this questioning that, and who, for an activity who might favor mafia groups. Secondly, should I bear responsibility for the environmental damages that created by gold miners who will destroy people's farms and people's grazing land? So in case they decide to prosecute, will I be safe? So it's just a series of questions or issues that which need being addressed. We, as the technical arm of the government, as what we want the government to do is to say sodomy each time sodomy issue. Let's say a permit to somebody. He should also teach him the good practices of the industry. We told our colleague of the Directorate of Mining to have sites where people need to go and see how it works. Can a private company allocate such time to ASM operators? What is the benefit for that private company? This is where the private company should think outside the box. If the private company consider it corporate responsibility and integrate or mainstream some technical data such as the sounding, and so good activities can be done serving the miner and the private company. When, by the time the code was elaborate, all those questions were raised. But when we faced some difficulty, people had to go get people trained, identify the miners, and mentor them. And I'm sure that if you do it that way, we're making inroads. So you said that we moved from a ban to authorization. Even though it was not written before the crisis of 2002, sodomy was supervising in the gold and diamond sector. So tell you that it's not something new. Over 30 years back, we've been doing it. The new provisions are more specific, and this authorization, as specified by the program, is to rationalize the ASM. So we need to staff the framework, the code with things which will make people feel comfortable and complying with criteria as the one mentioned, fleshed out, let's say set out by the OECD. It's a process. There's no magical remedy. There's no panacea. And I'm sure that the government will keep revisiting those provisions, those, I would say, recipe, not recipe, those ingredients, in order to refine and improve it. I don't want to be living in the same situation in the upcoming 6 years. I'm used to traveling to Segula. I'm familiar with the horrible permit. And so I've also is here the location, the areas where with the issued permit, there are ASM miners. CFR of Endeavor, who was here this morning, even the miners are working in the protected area, the classified forest. But we've learned in school that let's say we have several geologists and the miners are guiding, let's say the geologists. Let us use them for them to be useful or relevant for all the fragments, for all the section. And that's why we need to think outside the box instead of being happy with the existing reality. I would like to apologize to the private company, but we need try to dress the body and have a better understanding of the economic model, what business plan is good for the ASM operation. Last question to each and every one of us. Why our brother of Ragol said people are going between because they have found something. The excavators, he who excavate need no training. In our life, the governors who are here who want to have money overnight. Why go and sit down in a classroom for 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years? It's long. If I want this, I will not engage in the ASM mining. The ASM mining requires that I have a good health condition, that I can do the work. At the end of the day, I can expect money, something. If we don't decide on all this, we'll come up with model who will not be operational. I wanted to raise all point, put on the table all these realities. The sub-prefect of Bobby will be here, that he will buttress what I've said. We are sharing idea. The technical advisor Koulibaly, who was the director for engineering, mining engineering, for somebody who is working 2 weeks to have, let's say, diamond, piece of diamond, they are exploited. And Pride Day come rescue us. When the issue of land reclamation were raised, the deep well that turned into fishing pond, because it's long farming fish for 6 months, 10 months. People want something that whereby within 3 days they go to the director that within 3 days we found 3 pieces of diamond. That I found activities with short period of implementation. To your question, yes, it's applicable, but we need to take the whole economy of mining and build something sustainable. Thank you, Mr. Ashi. It's a real tour that we made this morning. From DR Congo, visited Burkina, visiting Mali, getting back to Côte d'Ivoire, and sharing the example, asking a relevant question that are crucial, both crucial and pragmatic. We exceeding a bit time since we started late. I can still give 10 minutes for clarification of a question. Maybe, I don't know if you have some question as a matter of clarity.
Merci. Alors, vous dites pas de polémique, mais
Well, thank you. You said there's no polemics here, but I want to contradict somebody. My experience with the diggers, with those miners, is that unfortunately they are not here. He presented so many situations here. So many among them have been digging for so many years that this idea of get money, make money quickly is gone. Many now are open to training, sensitization to improve their work, so that now they are becoming people that are making money from this, because they don't have any other training, only by this. So it is something that we need to take into consideration. It is the newcomers, when they start, that they can have this mentality, but most of the artisanal miners from our database show that they remain in that business for 15 years, and in 15 years they are disillusioned. Yes, sir, from Niger, you have been trying since this morning to speak. I'm giving you the floor for a comment. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Now, I would like to react to the Director General of Mining Quarries from Burkina Faso. Now, regarding the coexistence between the ASM and LSM, in fact, I remember an experience that I had in 2015 in Burkina Faso, and it was about the RSE forum, and that forum is a platform where mining companies operating in Burkina Faso will intervene, and it's just a platform of discussion between the ASM operators and LSM operators to see the possibility of a pacific coexistence. Now, I would like to know that period, 2015, what was the conclusion of that forum? Who is working to facilitate pacific coexistence between the ASM operators and LSM operators? Thank you very much. As I said, in Burkina Faso, there is a national agency that has been put in place, which works at coaching the artisanal and semi-mechanized operators. And the Director General is here in the room, and when it comes to time, he will say something. So the agency is working as to organize the artisanal miners so that they can work not in corridors, but in with the survey permit of LSMs, so that their activity be continued, because there's more loss of gold that is recorded in artisanal workers, that we to try and find a way to capture all this lost gold so that everybody can get, because that agency will buy the gold of the artisans to a better price to discourage them from going to do illegal sale of the gold. And I think that this new formula is good, so we're promoting it so that the government can encourage it. And there's a law on the commercialization of gold, and the government is working seriously on that, and will be able to reduce the loss. And with your permission, maybe the DG I talked about earlier will say something. Yes, sir? Very quickly, it is a new experience that we want to try in Burkina Faso. The government is now directly involved in the management of artisanal gold mining. In the beginning of the 1986, when artisanal gold mining started, the state gave the permission to a state-owned company to manage it, and started until the structural adjustment program came up, and the government disengaged themselves, and there was a vacuum. So the private operator came up, and they did not play the role. And so we realized that the sector was left to its own, and the illegal operations started. And last year, they said that they exported 336 kilograms that were exported. But actually, when we count them, they say that what actually comes out of Burkina Faso or exported from Burkina Faso is between 8 to 10 metric tons. And when there is a landslide, they say that the government is not there. This is how we established the agency, that we now have the responsibility to plan everything and commercialize gold. And the gold doesn't have the money to buy all this gold, but it will be have this bureau will work in such a way that they will not be tempted to go through illegal sale. And so they will come to us. It's better to have like 1 CFA France of over 10 metric ton instead of looking for 100 CFA out of 0 ton. So we will identify the artisan miners and do the mapping of all these people and give to each of them cards. They will organize them in cooperatives that will have advantages, and you as and so any artisanal miner will gain in joining the cooperative. And so we start the monitoring will start from digging a hole to the production. And I think that the DRC example is better for us. Work in the better security conditions if we are to use chemicals. These are ways to capture the gold, but you need to at least do it in such a way that you'll be protected. So there are now some methods that avoid the use of mercury for gold production, and this is what we're going to use. So the state will now interact with mining company, and they understand each other better, because in reality artisanal mining is a necessary evil that we need to manage. Thank you.
Je pense qu'on pourrait parler toute la nuit quand même.
I think that we can spend a whole night talking about this, and it's with regret that I must close this session. And you and I are passionate about this subject, this issue of coexistence, and we have seen some examples on how it can happen. And I'm very grateful to the speakers, particularly to the Director General of SODEMI, who was able to close this session with an important question, and who started with a set of examples. So during the coffee breaks of the next day and this afternoon, everybody will have time to continue the discussion outside this hall with the various participants. So we can't of these some honeymoon. We hope that this coexistence will work. We know that the tension will still be unavoidable. It is maybe because of the fact that there are tension and crisis that it is positive. But we are trying to find a solution to all this. And these are examples of this afternoon that show to us that the goodwill to work in the difficult situation gives new innovative solutions. The solutions are not final, but we try to do that, and it's better than doing nothing at all. So thank you all very much for your kind attention, and tomorrow morning we are expected here at 8:30, and I'm sure that we'll start on time with many interesting presentation and discussion. Thank you very much.